back to the Devil's Work podcast for Creep Part 2. Yeah. If you love Creep, you probably love more Creep.
Boy, do we have an episode for you.
Yeah, I think this is one of those rare occasions where a sequel outshines its predecessor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's extremely rare.
This is the far superior film.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm impressed enough when a sequel is like worth my time.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that the first one is bad by any fucking means, but this is just, I mean, scientifically,
Yeah.
it just slaps harder.
I had no
ramps
idea
up.
what to expect.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, you just, like, the original is very good, but you're like, maybe
Where do
they're
you go
just,
from here?
yeah, we're just going to
Gonna be the
see,
same.
like, this will just be a series of him, like, fucking with different victims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he's got a whole shelf full of tapes, so, like, maybe we're just watching another tape.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So, the synopsis for this one, which came out in 2017, so 3 years later. After finding an ad online for video work, Sara, a video artist whose primary focus is creating intimacy with lonely men, thinks she may have found the subject of her dreams. She drives to a remote house in the forest and meets a man claiming to be a serial killer. Unable to resist the chance to create a truly shocking piece of art, she agrees to spend the day with him. However, as the day goes on, she discovers she may have dug herself into a hole from which she can't escape.
That's a great
Yeah,
synopsis.
very interesting choice of words there.
Yeah. So the trigger warnings for this one are, I would say, knife violence and suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And
Maybe suicide.
and to a degree, like coercion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of coercion and gaslighting in both, but like it feels
The gaslighting-
ickier when there's the gender divide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gaslighting
It's
is
a different
definitely
beast.
ramps the fuck up for this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's being real, fucked up to both of them, but it takes on like a different kind of layer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different flavor for
And
sure.
you know Joseph now, so you're like,
Joseph question mark.
yeah. So you're like, girl, you are in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, we're gonna refer to him
well, until we know.
until we know. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I'll behave.
yeah, it manages to be unpredictable, even though we know, we think we know the drill.
Yeah, you don't know where this fucking thing is headed right off the bat. Because again, like it almost does present itself as a sequel that's gonna be like, oh, the same thing once it starts up, because you're like, oh, okay, this just has to be, like you said, like another tape.
Yeah, but it absolutely does not waste any of your time. It's just
No.
like, you know what's going on. Let's go again.
Yeah, and like this, like I love how like self-aware this one becomes with his like nods to the camera and like the subtle like looks that he'll give the audience. It's like, it's so fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like,
So the question mostly is like, who is this new person gonna be as a victim? But we open. I'm just gonna get into it.
oh no, absolutely no. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't know why you haven't seen it, but you should probably go change that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to
Yeah,
yourself?
Don't be weird.
I would say, like, I don't know. It's funny that it's just the standard, Netflix, but it just makes this probably the most accessible film in terms of like finding it and turning it on.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
we've covered.
Definitely one of the easiest to find for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, go do that and
Yeah.
then come back and listen.
So this movie opens sound first. You hear night sounds, and then the screen opens, and you realize you're like POV inside of a box, and this guy is opening a box that's on his doorstep, and he's looking down into it, and he's like, "Oh no." And right away, you're like, okay, so this is his next victim. And he's already sending him boxes.
Yep.
So, like, we must be pretty late in the game that he plays. And he brings the box into the house, and we're we're inside the box watching him, and he's got this disc that says "Watch me," and he puts the tape on, and there's no talking, and you don't know what he's watching, but there's the Peachfuzz song being whistled, and he's like very stressed out about it, and then there's a knock on his door. And he goes and he gets the door, and he's like, I'm so glad you're here. And into the apartment comes Joseph, just as we saw him in the last movie. He's got the same black outfit on. He's
so good,
wearing a wedding ring, and he's playing the role of this guy's concerned friend. And he's like, hey man, what's going on? I just came over. And he's like, oh, look, I got another DVD in the mail. Look at this.
He puts his hands over his mouth. He's like, what?
Joseph's like, oh my God, Dave, that's your house.
Like, this is your house. Like,
someone's filming your house. You should call the cops. And Dave is like, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't want to stress anyone out. And look, they sent me this in the mail. And Joseph looks over at the box, and he's like looking into the box, and he's like, "What? They sent you a baby wolf stuffy? That doesn't even make sense." And Dave's like, "I know."
Super weird, right?
And you're like, "Oh, this is fucked."
Yeah,
he's fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really cool that like it's the same old shit from the bucket of lies that he pulls from, but he's playing a different character. He's like not the aggressor, he's the friend this time.
Because they've started referring to him already as Aaron, right?
No, he's Dave.
Oh, that's right.
In this one, he's Dave.
That's right, he's
Dave.
Dave.
Well, the victim is Dave.
Oh, the victim is Dave. Okay, sorry.
Joseph has not been named.
They just don't say. Oh, they just don't say his name at all. Interesting. Okay.
I think they say it in the subtitles.
I don't think he says it until he meets our main character.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I think I knew because
like
the subtitles.
well into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And,
okay.
And by then you're like, oh, he's going with that name.
Yeah, because by the subtitle, I'm telling you, like in the subtitles, when characters are talking, they drop their names in the beginning of it, and then they started saying Aaron. I was like, huh.
Yeah,
that's weird.
I didn't hear it until she shows up.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
But like, yeah, you're like, this is our guy. He's up to his old bullshit.
Mm-hmm. But right now, to us, he's Joseph.
Yeah. And like, he's like, Dave, you should call the cops. Where's your gun? And Dave's like, I don't own a fucking gun. And
it's like, okay, fun. Just checking.
Yeah, good, cool. And then Dave's like, I don't know, I'll get us something to drink. And in the moment that he's gone, like, Joseph leans over and like sticks his face he looks right into the box, and he's like talking to the baby Peachfuzz.
Hey, baby.
Hey there. And he's like winking at it.
I think he's talking to Dave because he says, "Hey, sweet boy." And then he turns it around.
I don't know. I think he could just
Dave
be talking.
doesn't know that there's a tape being made.
Yeah.
No. I know, but I mean,
but like afterwards,
in the way that at the end of the last film, he's addressing Aaron because it's like these.
He makes
films,
the tape for the victim.
Yeah, it's like he like on some level like thinks that like their ghost can like see this, or that like he's. Like, he seems to think he's still having a conversation with Aaron in some way, even though it's one-sided.
Right.
Yeah, I took it as, like, him, like, talking to the wolf, because I think he had, at some point, the baby wolf was introduced in the last one towards the end.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's like, I gave you this little cute baby wolf. As like a sign of whatever the fuck, but like
our wolf bond.
It's one of his last steps for sure. In his like weird MO.
Yeah, but in this one, I don't think that like Dave has never seen the Peachfuzz mask.
Oh, okay, fair
enough. It's all a little different, but it's like this is a guy that he stalked and followed around and did this to, and then Aaron and presumably whoever he's calling at the end of the first movie, he's using that other method of like getting a rental. Because I think we may have brushed past that when he calls the cops in the first one, Aaron is like, yeah, I looked it up and it's just some rental. Like, there's no way to track it to him. And you know what I mean? So
I made a note about that actually later on, how that's like a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this one, like, they've never gone to Crestline or anything. This is all happening local.
Elsewhere.
Yeah, totally. It's not exactly always the same scenario, and I kind of get the sense from like how he calls it like his work, and he has this like kind of artistic bent to it.
Yeah,
that like he wants to explore and have his films be a little different.
Yeah, and he goes through phases. Like one of the tapes in his collection says someone's name and then bar in Ojai. So like he travels around California.
That's interesting. I mean, again, we get with these 1-to-1 comparisons between him and Benoit from Man Bites Dog.
Yeah,
again, go and listen to that if you haven't yet. I highly recommend you go back and listen, because that's just gonna make this conversation that much more fun.
Check out our other serial killers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to say, though, later in this film, he talks about Aaron, and he says, really sweet guy. I called him buddy. So, like, whatever the term is that he just, like, uses during...
It's all interchangeable.
Like, he finds a... So, I feel like he called this guy sweet boy.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah,
and it's such a, like, not what you would, like, immediately jump to for, like, sort of a, like... pet name nickname thing, that it's like he's kind of gotten so far down the line that he has to like specify now. You know, it can't just be sweetie.
The creepiest tape on his shelf says Little Tiny.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Like, who the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Oh
God.
So he takes the wolf with the camera inside it, and he makes sure that it has a clear view of the dining table,
repositions it,
where he's sitting with Dave and they're having a beer, and Dave's like, so what's up with you? And Joseph is like, are you serious, man? What's going on with me? Like, you've got a stalker running around and you're asking how I'm doing? You're so awesome.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, the tone changes all of a sudden. He's like, this is really great that we're spending this time together. I really hate to say what I have to say to you tonight.
And he says the same thing, too. He's like, oh, isn't this great? Two guys throwing back a couple of cold ones.
Yeah, and Dave is like, what could you possibly have to say to me? And he's like, I'm really worried about us. Yeah, there's this sort of like undertone that it's like a relationship rather than just a buddy friendship.
He says something about, when we first met, it got hot and heavy quick, or something like that. He does say something like that.
It's not necessarily like he could just be talking about their friendship in a weird way.
Exactly,
But using this like passion terminology, it's hard to tell. He's like,
it's so strange.
It can't have been a coincidence. Like, we met at this coffee shop the same time. Like, we had the same copy of Infinite Jest. It's like, it's fucking destiny. And then we turned into this. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
As though having a beer together and like meeting on every Tuesday is like a letdown. He's like, I expected more from you.
Jesus.
So, like, Dave is clearly boring him in a way. God. And then he's like, you ever think about how we met right around the time when you started getting those DVDs in the mail? And, like, Dave's like, And he's like, you just thought about it, didn't you?
No, it's
okay. It's like, well, you just told me to. Like,
yeah. And Dave is clearly, like, putting it together, and Joseph is like, it's okay, you know, everything that's about to happen to you here tonight, I just want you to know it's not your fault. And Dave is like, I need to get up from this table right now. And Joseph is like, okay, so look, I sent you this. There's a camera inside the wolf. That's baby Peachfuzz. Say hello.
Say hello.
I was going to make this film and present it to you, a beautiful 80-minute film of our friendship.
That's so good.
And you deserve that because you're a beautiful person, and I want to give that to you. And Dave is like, oh, fuck. Because he's been going through a lot with this.
Yeah.
Being stalked. in a really like creepy way for sure. And then Joseph's like, but you know, since I'm turning 40, you know, something's off, something doesn't feel right. And he's like reaching down and you watch him like,
yeah, I love that it's in frame too.
He pulls up a knife and he has it against his thigh.
Oh, good.
And he's like, I just don't know. And he's just talking about his midlife crisis. And Dave is like, I'm out. And he like gets up. He starts to get up from the table.
Dude, he starts to get up. He doesn't even get up.
Yeah. And Joseph's in the middle of being like, I just don't know if I have any joy in my work anymore. I don't know if I can do this.
Getting sliced.
And
dude.
he just, because Dave gets up, he slashes his throat.
That's such a quick fucking kill, too. It's so, like, precise, dude. It's wild.
Just splatters the wall behind them.
Yeah, it's such a good fucking shot.
And Dave never even makes it out of the chair. He just, like, slumps over and, like, bleeds out. And
he holds onto his head and he's...
Joseph just like leans on his head and like takes a sip of the beer, and it's like now he's just talking to the camera and he's like, what's happening to me? So that's like the message of the film is he really is going through a midlife crisis, and he's like, I just don't, this isn't working for me anymore.
Fantastic, yeah. And like once you see that that's gonna be the direction of the movie, you're just like, oh, okay,
hell yeah.
Hell yeah, like a fucking serial killer going through a midlife crisis, I'm down.
I love that he specifically says, I was going to commemorate our friendship with a beautiful 80-minute film, and both movies are just about 80 minutes exactly.
I think the second one is exactly. The first one might be just under.
Yeah, the first one's like an hour 17.
Yeah,
like even with like credits and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's a playful nod, but also like he's killed so many people. He has a very good sense of how long the video will turn out to be.
That's true.
He's done this a lot.
So true.
And we now know. It's like a different precedent because like with the first movie we're like, is he, isn't he, I don't know, but like we know now he is a murderer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so we're on a different page.
Oh man, it's so this one, that's what I'm saying, this one is so masterfully done because it doesn't repeat itself in bad ways. It does repeat itself.
It echoes in a responsible way.
Exactly, yeah. So, but it builds on all that shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't just like, all right, yeah, he's fucked up, and you know that, and like that's what it's gonna be the rest of the movie. It's like,
yeah, he actually is very different in this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is amazing.
It's interesting because you see his character is almost quote unquote matured in a way.
Yeah,
that's terrible to say, but yeah. Well, I just think that's very interesting.
The difference a few years make.
Right? After a short opening credits, which we didn't get with the first movie, that was just a cold start.
Yeah.
This is a cold start too, but they give us a little opening credits, and then we cut to the opening montage of a YouTube video where we meet Sara, who her concept for her YouTube show called Encounters is that she answers Craigslist ads, which are pretty much all man for woman. She's just answering lonely guys and like filming and showing up at their houses and like playing into whatever like weird thing that they're into. It doesn't get sexual. It's not a sexual thing, but if someone wants to like do like have her play the mommy role, so they can work through their trauma, or like they want to like sit in a pool together, or like there's one guy who I think who's on acid and he's like showing her
that's right
his pottery or his pottery that is invisible or something.
So wild.
Yeah, she's just like very down to. That's her. Honestly, it's a fire concept for a YouTube channel to just be like, I just meet weird people and I treat them with respect, and we just go on whatever weird journey they go on. And,
but she doesn't seem to think the same.
Yeah. There is that little edge of like maybe she's exploiting them, but she's very kind to them.
Yeah.
And so it cuts from that video to she's sort of like video vlogging to herself in her apartment, also in LA. And she's like, I've got 9 views. Welcome to Encounters, the show nobody watches because it fucking sucks. And she's sort of like having like a really dark moment where she's like, I wanted to do this cool thing where, you know, I met other weirdos and we had a moment, and she's like, I thought that I could bring something out in people that's like weird and taboo and secret.
She says that she doesn't even really care about the fame. Like, she didn't care about that.
Yeah, she doesn't care about making money or anything. She just wanted to make something cool for other creative people.
Yeah, she wants to be unique and talented, which is a lot like another character. The only other character in this film.
And she's like, she's being very honest, and she's like, I never follow through in the right way, and I'm humiliated, and I'm tired of failing. And so, welcome to Encounters, you know, where we encounter my failure. She's just like, fuck it. And then we cut immediately to the next morning, and she's like, freshly showered, she's had coffee. She's like, sorry about last night, I was feeling a little down, but I feel better now. And also, I found this Craigslist ad.
There we go.
And she shows it, and it's very short. It's just like seeking, you know, a videographer.
Like, videographer for the day.
Must be open and honest. Fans of Interview with a Vampire, a plus. Let's go deep together. And it says text 42655, which I don't know if you guys know how that works.
I have no idea.
It's not a full phone number. I don't know how you make one of those.
I have zero fucking idea.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
But
I know that it's possible.
It's some kind of way to stay anonymous and still text with people. So she doesn't have his number.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know businesses will do that sometimes.
It's
too.
like some kind of extension.
Yeah, I don't know how you would go about getting one as like just a regular person.
Yeah. But she does text the number, and you get to watch the text conversation unfold. She messages, I'm interested. And there's he starts typing right away. The spider is waiting in its web. And he says, do you scare easily? And she says, no. Which is true.
That's very true.
She's a very bold
she'll put that to the fucking test.
person. And he's like, what's your name? And she starts to type Sara, and then she's like, I don't know if I should give him my name. And she erases it, and then she's like, fuck it. And she says Sara. And he immediately is like, that's kind of the name of my favorite song. Let's meet. And she's like, what? Okay. And then we see she's driving up to probably Crestline in her car, and you're like, oh no, don't go there.
Go turn around.
Yeah. But like, from what we've seen already, she's a much more engaging and interesting character than Erin was. And we already like her, at least I do, a lot more.
10 times more.
Because, you know, she cares about shit. Like, we didn't know anything about Erin, and he was kind of like a wet noodle.
Wet noodle.
But like, already I'm like, I am worried for this girl. I want her to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because she cares about things, and like, she deserves to live.
She's earned that much.
Yeah. So she parks, she finds the spot, she parks, and she turns to the camera, and she's like, this is the last episode. Like, even though she had a bad night, and the next day she felt better, she's still like, this is episode 10 of 10. Normally I'd be telling you that I'm about to help some Walgreens manager work through his mommy issues, but I don't actually know anything about this guy, and this is not normally a situation I would allow myself to get into.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why this show has been sucking, so let's see what happens.
Oh, man, you gotta risk it for the biscuit, baby.
Yeah. And, I guess we haven't really described her. She's got, like, purple hair, and she kind of has, like,
She's the goth pixie dream girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got the like lace choker.
Yeah. She's got a little bit of a punk vibe, maybe.
She's wearing maybe not combat boots, but definitely boots. Which I
Yeah.
clocked later when there's like some water that she steps through, and I was like, oh, she's fine.
Yeah.
Like, she's probably the one who's better off here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She's like the ideal alt-E girl.
Yeah, that's definitely the direction as far as like what to come dressed as, for sure.
Yeah. She hasn't dressed up at all for this. She's just like, I got my hoodie, you know, I got my shorts, I'm comfortable, let's go.
Yeah, I meant as far as like the few things that are actually written in terms of this movie, like that was definitely one of them. And this was like,
Yeah, just show up.
She's his e-girl.
She's
you
his
know?
e-girl.
Yeah.
So she's going down the steps. This house, the steps are down to the house, and it's a different mountain cabin that he's obviously rented.
That's an interesting catch.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Because the formula has been flipped in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's an interesting
It's all
one.
inverted.
Yeah, it's
That's
like a
neat.
similar house, really. Maybe more like a hunting lodge than the previous house. A
Yeah,
lot more
very
wood
similar.
inside. But, you know, the same. It's probably like right down the street or just on the other side of the lake from the other place.
Yeah.
And she knocks on the door and it just opens. Like it's not even latched. And she comes in and she's like looking around. And there's a jump scare of the sound of a blender. And she turns and she's filming, and he's all the way over there in the kitchen, and he has his back turned, and he's not jumping out. It is a play for sure to like startle her with a sound, but like he's
not
obviously detached
Yeah.
emotionally from, like he's not really feeling it.
I didn't read too much into that, but yeah, you're totally right. Yeah.
And he's making a smoothie.
Yeah, he's like playing against character within that realm.
Yeah. And
There-
this
That's
is
neat.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say there are certain things about our personalities that we can't like do away with, no matter how down we are or how much we try to like change things.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's sort of like, despite himself, like I guess I'll just do this.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny.
He doesn't know what else, like he can
Yeah.
only do one thing in life.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But we're introduced now to new, sexy, depressed Joseph.
Sexy
AKA
depressed.
Aaron.
AKA Aaron.
Yeah. He now has longer hair, long enough to make a little pony, and he has a full beard. He's still wearing all black, but for the first time he's wearing a t-shirt and some knee-length shorts and sandals, and he legitimately looks really cool. He looks like maybe a CEO of some startup or something.
I mean, I don't know, man. People were really digging Fat Thor, so I get it.
Yeah,
He
I'm
looks
just
like he's about to walk out and say, "What if I told you?"
I'm just putting it out there. I think that he looks really good,
No, I mean, the dad
which is
bod.
confusing as fuck because he's
Yeah,
a psycho.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. Speaking from experience from having long hair, like there's kind of that like you want to get most of your hair, but sometimes if a little bit falls loose, like before we started potting, I realized I kind of had like my bun got loose overnight while I was sleeping, but it's kind of like the loose strands are doing a thing that I
Yeah.
enjoyed, but
The
it's
casual,
like
messy.
it's so hard to like actually capture. But yeah, he like knows
Yeah.
exactly how to capture it. Like
Yeah.
it's a cultivated like he can't not be caught in the minutia.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's the way that a lot of, you know, serial killers and other people with,
Yeah.
you know, disorders like think is like very,
It's all about creating a character,
Absolutely.
very detailed oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
seemingly effortless. I thought it was really interesting. He is still wearing that wedding ring. He is now no longer the character he was playing before, and he's
I
not
didn't
married
even
to Angela.
I didn't catch that.
But he's wearing the ring throughout this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so he's running the blender, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Sarah," and he's just like very like lazily like,
It tells her to hold
"I can't
on.
hear you."
So hold on.
Yeah, and you're like dying to know what the fuck is up with him.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he shakes her hand and he's like, "I'm Aaron." And
Yep.
you're like, "Oh, you fucker."
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, immediately. It's like a big like sigh from us in the crowd of like, you son of a bitch.
And she's like, "I'm Sarah," and he like pauses and he looks at her like really, really deeply, and he's like, that is
your real name.
You're not lying about your name. Thanks for that."
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
And then he's like, "Can we start with a hug?" And you're like, "Oh, he's back on his bullshit."
there that boy go.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I put a note here, and I wanted to make sure I touched on it. So I mentioned how Dylan didn't really like the movie, and I need to actually tell him this. He reminds me so much of Dylan, but not in like that's not how Dylan is. But I feel like those would be his line readings of how to play this exact character. Like if this was a very minutely moment-to-moment scripted film and you auditioned my friend Dylan, you would get that exact same performance, like beat for beat, breath for breath. Like
So-
I'm just like, I feel like I'm watching him.
So say thank you, Dylan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really funny. I'm like, this is exactly how you would play this guy.
That's hilarious.
Did he watch the second one?
He watched just the first one, and then I was
there you
like,
go.
I don't want to force you to watch the second one, but I
Fair
think
enough.
it might make it work for you
It
in a way.
does. It totally does.
Because I feel like it ramps. You
Yeah,
know?
it's absolutely. This is like it's the bouncing board for the second one to really like
Yeah.
take off. Like
I
you
didn't
said.
I didn't ask. Had you guys both seen the second one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
No.
I watched both of them like Sideshow said. I don't
Yeah,
know if I watched
back
them
to back.
back to back like same day, but
Yeah.
definitely like within a weekend whenever
Nice.
they were first
I mean,
brought to my attention. I
If
was
you
like,
know
oh.
there's a second one, how can you not watch it immediately?
exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was
once
saying.
you watch something like this, and
Yeah, because it leads it off so it's so fucking like really, really interestingly. So yeah, it makes you really want to catch
I'm
that
just
second
glad
one.
the only one I had to suffer 3 or 4 years for is the third one. Like I didn't have to deal with that
I know, I'll
twice.
gladly wait for this one now that
We're-
I'm anticipating it.
We're
Yeah.
ready, Patrick and Mark, when you are. Yeah. So he gives her he's made a green smoothie for both of them, and he's like, "Here you go, it's poisoned." After she sips it, and she just laughs, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, of course it's not." But and they sit down to have a chat, and this is so interesting because Joseph in the first movie, he's such a creepy little like man boy who's like, "I'm sorry," like just, and then in this he's like he's manlier, he's dressed normally.
That's what I'm saying. He's got that maturity about him.
Yeah, and he has like it's an entirely different vibe. They sit down and have this very frank discussion. And he's like, yeah, he's very adult and straightforward. He's like, I'm glad you're filming already. I really like that. So cool move. And she's like, yeah, I want you to get your money's worth. And he's like, nice. And like for that, you're like, hey, we have way more respect for her than you did for Erin, who was just like, I gotta get this $1,000. Like she's doing it because she's interested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah. So they're like, there's already this level of mutual respect.
Yeah.
And he asks her, like, he's like, you have a really nice camera. What do you do? And she's like, I shoot wedding videos, but I'm like trying to get into grad school. And he's like, you don't shoot anything else? And she's like, nope. And he like, huh. So
Yeah.
there's that little moment of like,
That's so good.
he always knows.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if before he even sets up the ad, like, did he already pick Erin out? Did he already pick her out?
Yeah. You get the
know?
sense that like he already knows everything about her, and he's just, the game he's playing is like giving her a chance to
Yeah.
to
See how
lie or
much-
tell
yeah.
the truth. And
See
she's
how much of a quote unquote good person she is.
yeah, so she may or may not have just made her first misstep. But
Yeah.
and then she's like, okay, well, let's do this. And he's like, he just jumps straight the fuck in. He's like,
he's so fucking like nonchalant.
it's
about
amazing.
This shit.
He's like, I am what is commonly known as a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that nomenclature. I think of myself as a murderer, but my numbers are such that I am classified as a serial killer.
So fucking funny.
And she, as a documentarian, is like, really? And he's like, yes, I am a killer. I've killed 39 people.
Go on.
It's the greatest job in the world. It's what I'm built to do.
That's fucking wild.
And she's like, huh. And he's like, but I'm turning 40 and I'm feeling a little midlifey.
Midlifey. Yeah.
Right. And he gets really wistful. He's like, there was a time when I could have like met a man at a bar and then taken him out and like laid him on the floor and cut him open, and his insides would reveal the secrets of the universe to me, and I could feel a part. I thought this was really interesting. He's like, I could feel a part of every time and place that has ever existed, which is
that's fucked up.
which is what it's like for Jack the Ripper in From Hell.
Oh.
When he murders, he actually time travels, and like people from different times see him. Like
Interesting.
he's like killing someone in an alleyway, and then he's like, huh? And there's like a portal, and then someone from the year 2000 can see him through it, and they have this moment where they're both like, what the fuck?
That's wild.
So
That's
it made me think of that when like maybe he,
definitely
time travels.
Definitely brought up From Hell.
Yeah,
A couple of times on this show already. I need to read that.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I was gonna say the book, not the movie. 'Cause
Not
that's
the movie.
That's
what I'm
definitely
saying.
one.
movie.
I know.
That's one of the big differences.
Yeah, the graphic novel is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, murdering is like my religion. But now it just feels like a job.
It's so funny.
And she's like, this is the most interesting thing that's ever
Yeah,
happened to
exactly.
me.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and he's like, I saw this interview with Francis Ford Coppola about...
That's right.
He said, The Conversation, the movie I made in 1974 is the best thing I've ever made, and it's all downhill from here.
Or
And
the last original thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to make something good and doing his best. So like, I'm failing, but I'm trying. And that's all you can do. And he thought maybe he should make a documentary about that. And that's where you come in, Sarah. Let's make a film about the most prolific serial killer that no one knows about. Mm-hmm. Man bites dog.
Yeah, I think Benoit's got him beat for numbers.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I thought it was interesting that he's turning 40 and he says he has 39 victims, which means he has
one for every year. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, was that a purposeful move on his part?
That's literally what I thought too.
Which
That's
you'd
so
have to play
funny.
some catch up because he hasn't been killing people since he was born.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
But like, I wonder if he chose that number
You'd be
to be
surprised, the
symbolic,
child prodigies out there.
right?
We've all seen The Omen.
Yeah,
He's murdering at a 12th grade level.
but maybe. So he's like, I know this is a lot, so if you want to take your money and bail, I understand. And she's like, no, I'm interested. And he's like, I don't fucking believe you.
It's weird because it's also like he was disarming Aaron in the first one with like lies, and in this one he's almost disarming her with the truth.
Yeah, it's like, it's still double-edged, but he still does the thing where he's like, if you want to leave,
That's
you
so
can leave.
interesting. It's such
I'll
fucking masterful acting.
Yeah, he's like, you can have the money, I'm not gonna not pay you, even if you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And but she's like, yeah, I'm definitely staying, but he probably knows what she does.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't hear that passion in your voice.
Say it like you mean it.
Yeah. He's like, but if you stay, I can offer you two things. One, I won't kill you in the next 24 hours. That would be counterproductive. Two,
So wild.
I will bare my soul to you and give you the deepest access possible. And she's like, this is, yes. And she's like, Aaron, I want to make this film with you. And he's like, He like wanted her to leave. He was,
Yeah.
he's like, there's that wasn't quite what I was going for. He's like, okay, next step.
Yeah, exactly.
And he takes her into, and I wonder if this is actually, he takes her into his library where he has this like video thing set up, or it at least has a screen set up.
Like an editing bay of some sort.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Because he's showing her the video of him killing Aaron at the shore of Lake Gregory.
Yeah, and I love how it gives us like closure on what happened, because you're left to think, like, wonder, did he hit him again? Did one shot do it or whatever? Not that it's like very necessary, but it is interesting to see what happens.
Because they didn't show you.
Yeah, the tail end of the video.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, and just to see that the between of that take exists between killing Patrick, that's his real name, between killing Aaron and popping up in the camera. Like, they really shot
because we don't get that
Yeah.
jump scare part.
Yeah, you don't get the jump scare. in this
Yeah,
one.
but presumably they'd let that camera run for like 3 minutes and he just pretended to be slumped over and then he crawled over there and jumped up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. You would think that you would just cut and do it, but then just thinking about how meticulous they've already been, you know what I mean?
They actually filmed that as though it was going down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And it's really cool that, like, watching it as Sara, you already know how this video goes, but I found myself, like, watching it as Sara being like, what's gonna happen next? Like,
you're able to, like,
I allowed
take
myself
yourself,
to forget and watch it as though I'd never seen it before. And she's like, who's that? Is that your friend? And he's like, Sara.
All good
Shush.
things come to those who wait.
Yeah. And when he brings the axe down into Aaron's head
He
in the
does
video,
like the step. He counts with the steps.
he's
too.
watched
He's
it
like,
so many times.
Yeah, he's able to like choreograph it like a fucking conductor.
Yeah. And the moment the axe makes contact with Aaron's head, in the credits, he's old Aaron.
Yeah,
That's
I thought
so
that was funny, too.
I didn't notice that. That's great.
Yeah, he's at the very bottom of the cast list.
Oh, that's so funny.
Aaron turns around and looks at Sara. He's like, and she's like, okay.
That was neat.
Yeah. And he's like, what do you think? And she's like, I think it's interesting. And he's like, did that scare you? And he's filming her now. And she's very, like, level-faced. He's
She's
like
very stoic.
He takes her camera and he points that lens at her and he's like, was that scary? And she's like looking up at him. I think it's interesting in these movies, like the points where they look over the camera
like,
at the other person and when they look down the lens.
Yeah.
Because it changes from
It
moment to
means
moment.
different things too.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And she's looking at him and she's like, did you want it to scare me? Mm-hmm. And he's like,
It's like, God damn it.
this is tricky. And he's like, okay, wait here. And he runs upstairs and she has the camera again and she's like,
Scampers away again.
yeah. And she's like, what the fuck? And then she's like filming around and she immediately notices the axe from the video is hanging over the window. And she's like, is that the fucking axe? And you're like, you're not fully sure at this point how much she believes him or how scared she is, but she's like clearly playing it very brave and she's like a little bit flustered, but she doesn't really know what to make of him. So she's just, hanging out in the living room waiting for him, and he comes back downstairs and he is now naked and in a bath towel. And he's like, okay. He's like he's just trying to break her and like make her
That's
leave
so
or
good,
something,
yeah.
which is really interesting. Like, he doesn't want her to stay. So this is sort of like, we're as unsure as they both are.
Well, yeah, because I was reading it more as like he's just trying to like test her, like really. Again, it's like dipping the toes in the water.
Yeah, it seems like he has absolutely nothing to lose because, like, presumably a serial killer losing their hold on their victim would be like, oh, a failure. But like, he doesn't give a shit if she stays or goes. He's just like, he's testing her out.
Yeah.
So he's standing in front of the fireplace in this bath towel, and he makes a little speech about how there's always a wall between a man and a woman, and that wall is, I wonder what you look like naked. And if we're gonna do this, then we need to tear that wall down. Do you agree? And she's like, yeah. And he's like,
no hesitation. He's like, what the
okay.
fuck? Okay.
And he throws off the towel, and he poses really majestically,
Yeah,
and he's
full dick out Duplass.
dick out Duplass.
Hanging shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, full
Thunder
full
gun.
And you can tell that he's he's uncertain. He's posing.
That's not how I thought the end of that word was going to go. I'm so sorry. I was like, Evelyn, why?
Listen up, guys. He's just he's like, his pose is really brave, but he's like, how do you feel? And she's like, I feel fine. And he's like, so, and he starts his speech over. He's like, so we need to really tear this wall down, so we have to do this thing. And she's like, okay, so is it my turn now? And he's like, huh? I think it's really interesting. No, his plan was not to gaslight her into getting undressed.
Yeah.
He did not. He was just like, I'm going to get undressed in front of her and see if she freaks out.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, well, it's my turn, obviously. We have to tear the wall down. And he's like, okay.
Shit.
And she's like, here, take the camera. You can sit over there, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say I watched Game Over Man, the movie from the Workaholics crew
Yeah,
a couple
I love that
nights
movie.
ago.
So
and
good.
you see Adam Devine's just full package. So this was
Respect.
funny to watch back to back and be like, well, that's two comedians' dicks emblazoned in my
Yeah.
mind.
It's good to have an excuse. Yeah.
Hanging a lot of dongs.
Yeah. So he sits down and films her, and she you can tell she's a little bit she's like, what the fuck am I doing? But she's being very brave, and she's like, if we're doing this, we're doing this. Yeah. I agree. If this is an artistic endeavor, I obviously need to do this too. I'm gonna match your energy. And she just starts stripping down, and he zooms in on her face.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
And she's staring him down, and he's filming her face, and she doesn't know from over there what he is or isn't filming or looking at, but he's only interested in how she's feeling. And she's just very, very brave expression. She's like, are we good? And he's like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that sexuality only matters to him insofar as being used as a weapon. It
Right.
doesn't seem like
yeah,
he's
absolutely.
he's not a sexually motivated murderer.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely
not
not.
what he's about,
Right.
I don't disbelieve that something like the incident he described in the first movie happened. I don't doubt that he's assaulted somebody, but
Yeah.
it's been purely for the power.
Yeah, it's all about games to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about, because he'll check in with his victims sometimes and be like, well, that part where I scared you, that's what it feels like when you think you're about to die. How was
Which
that?
you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you get the impression that if you looked like you were mad enough to want to kill me.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Do you want
We
to try?
should explore that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a very creative killer.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, almost in the sense of giving himself an excuse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He just wants to be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your older age, I can understand that. You gotta zhuzh it up.
So after stripping down, Sara goes off to the bathroom by herself, and she's like, holy shit. And she's really freaked out, but also so intrigued by this guy.
She keep that thing on her.
Yeah. She's like, so on one hand, every flag I have has been raised. On the other hand, this is the most interesting subject I've ever encountered on encounters. So, like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm pretty sure he's not a killer, she says.
Yeah.
But I'm not a complete idiot, so I'm gonna put this knife in my boot. And this is one of the only parts of the movie that I take issue with, because she's not talking very quietly to her camera.
Yeah.
And he's outside the whole time.
Like, right there.
He's like banging on the door. He's like, Sarah, we gotta go. We're losing light. I'm like, he's probably got his ear to the door.
Yeah, of course. And she's like, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, I don't love the fact that she's like talking so openly to the camera, but you know, I'll forgive it.
We can forgive it.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah. So he's like, come on, we gotta go. And she comes out of the bathroom and he goes straight for that jump scare, like screaming right in her face. And she doesn't respond. She doesn't react to it. And he's like,
oh, word?
huh. Well, okay.
I'm gonna get you eventually today. So, did he say that? He said something like, I'm gonna get
I think
you.
he does.
by the end
Yeah,
of the day.
eventually. He's like, I'm gonna get you. And she's like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
And he just cannot fucking figure her out. And he's so
tough nut to crack, bro.
he's so intrigued. So then they're driving, we can assume, to somewhere in the woods, because that's what he likes to do.
Yep.
It's kind of his thing.
And this time he's using, I think, his own car. He's got a rental car. It's not her car.
He's driving with the mask on.
He's got old Peachfuzz on. And he's just driving away, and she's filming him, and he's like, what do you think of the mask? And she's like,
as a passenger.
yeah, she's like, as a passenger, I'm not super psyched about it, because, like, visibility.
Yeah. She's like, can you even see in that thing?
Yeah. And she's like, she wants to interview him as a documentarian. She's like, do you believe in God? Because that would, like, really complicate what you do. Like, playing along, like, assuming, like, if you are actually a serial killer, like, how would you rectify that? And he's like, you didn't answer my question. What do you think of my mask? And she's like, I think it's cute. I think you're a cute little wolf. And he's like,
I'm a
like,
big scary wolf.
yeah. What if I was a bad wolf?
Yeah, what
a
if
naughty
I was a
wolf.
naughty wolf?
He's like, what would you say if I told you at the end of this road I was gonna cut your head off and snuggle fuck it?
But snuggle fucking.
And then he's just like, ah! And she's like, okay, let's go.
That's adorable. Now let's go.
So he's like, just basically bashing himself against a wall with this one. And he, you know, she's unlike any victim he's ever encountered, but also he thinks it's him. Because he's lost his groove. So he's like, I really have lost it, haven't I? But he's like, honestly, he has. He's not got the kind of spark that he had with Aaron, old Aaron.
Older.
Yeah. So he takes her out to, it might be the same park, it might not be the same park, but it's a different location. It's a bridge way up high over a creek. And she's like, on their way out to it, she's like asking him questions. So she's like, did you have friends growing up? He's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, did you have a best friend? And he's like, I really think we should save these questions for when we get to the location. So he's like flustered. We have to do it my way. He's definitely a control freak.
That Benoit at the birthday party again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's just used to his victims being like kind of like, okay.
He can talk at them enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I just say, by the way, Sideshow, Benoit's birthday, track title.
Absolutely noted.
Oh yeah.
Next album.
You gotta do it. Oh. So they show up at this creek under a bridge, and she's like, oh, it's pretty. And he's like, no, this is all wrong.
He's throwing a fucking tantrum.
He's like, where's the water? She's like, right there is the water. He's like, no, it's supposed to be like you
Up
know,
to my neck.
up to my chin.
I want big water.
He's like, I was supposed to be submerged for the Jesus metaphor, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Jesus metaphor.
And he's like, it's all wrong. And he's just like, I need to think, because he just doesn't know what to. He doesn't have a backup plan. And she's like, Aaron, and he's like, shh, I'm trying to think. And she's like, Aaron, Coppola, and he's like, what? And she's like, what would Coppola do?
It's like Popola?
Popola?
Why are you fucking saying that to me?
which is really funny to me because Popola is the name of a character in the first Nier game.
That's hilarious.
It's just a very random. I don't think there'd be any connection there, but just as a JRPG guy, I was just like, "Whoa, that's
hey.
your gibberish just landed on a anime name."
Your gibberish.
My radar just went off. So yeah, she's like, "What would Coppola do in this situation?" And he's like, "That's really fucking smart."
It's actually really fucking smart.
And then they're doing his thing that he wanted to do anyway, which
hilarious.
is he is now sitting in like a couple inches of water, pretending with his hands that he's sitting in
so
lots of water.
Funny.
So goddamn
And she's like, "What are you
good.
doing with your hands?" He's like, "It's the water, you know."
I
For the
figured
CGI.
The CGI, you could just put it into the water up to my neck.
Which he would just be imagining in the future, unless he wants to hire and kill a CG guy,
Exactly. Hiring.
Easier than paying one.
right?
Exactly.
That net 30.
So good.
So, and he's doing this like, she's like, "I don't know why you're doing that with your hands, but I don't think we need it." He's like, "Okay." And he's trying to do this like speech that it keeps getting interrupted by like
The bird.
there's a bird going like in the tree, and there's
The plane.
a plane going over, and the light is wrong.
Not like we can't relate.
But the speech is like, it was 1978. It was the last days of disco. And in a little house somewhere and then
Nondescript place.
he can't ever get any farther than that. But you're like, is he telling his story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we never get to hear it because he's like, it's not right.
He's throwing the rock at the bird.
And the bird won't shut up, and he's like losing his shit.
Please do it again. I want you to do it again.
And then he needs her to fix his ponytail.
But she does it not how he wants it, but then he's like, "Oh, fine."
Yeah.
Yep.
And when he's finally gonna do it, and she's like, "Aaron, the light's wrong," and he's just like, he didn't have another one in him. And he's like, "I need to step away and take a break."
Yep.
He looks at her like he's gonna kill her, which, you know,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
would. But he's just like, he's a broken man. He's like, fuck.
I had a note that says he's acting like Mac filming Project Badass.
There it is for this episode. We
There
filled
you
our
go.
quota.
Well, I said Thunder Gun earlier, but I had to double up.
Oh, there we go. We
When-
filled our quota then.
Because when we were hanging shaft like Thunder Gun.
So it just falls apart.
Yep.
And
Goes off the fucking rails.
he disappears into the woods like he did before. And she's walking around looking for him, and she's like, "I think this day might be a wash. I don't know if..." Turns out Aaron's a bit of a drama queen.
And yeah, he is pulling the biggest bitch fit of this film.
Yeah.
And on her search for him, she crosses a tree with a heart with J plus D carved into it, which implies he's brought other victims out here.
Yeah.
That's cool. I
This
didn't
is
catch
his
that.
stomping grounds.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And she's looking for him, and she hears this growling, like sort of like a Peachfuzz growl, and you're like, "Uh-oh, he's in a mood." But she finds him behind a bush. He's face down. He's planking, basically.
Planking.
He's just completely face down on the ground, and he's sort of like grumble snoring. And she's like, "Aaron." And she puts her hand on his shoulder, and then he, like, without looking up, he just reaches out and
Grabs her hand.
they just like
lock fingers.
they lock fingers, and they have this moment, and he's like, "Please don't leave." And she's like, I'm not going anywhere. And then he like puts her hand on the back of his neck to give him a little neck rub.
She ends up mommying him.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, she's probably thinking, well, this isn't as interesting as she's probably like a little bit tired of him. Like, this is just like the other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
A bit disappointing. And then they go back to the house after that, and she's in the bathroom again, which is where she does her like little personal vlogging.
Her confessionals.
And she's like, yeah. And she's like, Aaron isn't talking anymore. He's sort of shut down, and he's just down in the hot tub playing this shitty 90s
jam band
smooth jazz song.
Shit's hilarious.
Over and over. I should probably just leave him alone. That would be the decent thing to do, but he's so vulnerable right now. Mm-hmm. And if I could just go down there and provoke him, I could get the material I need. And you're like, girl, you don't want to provoke him.
This woman is playing with fire.
Yeah.
Did you make a note about the song that was playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
And she decides she's gonna go fuck with him.
And we're choosing chaos.
Yeah. And you don't see as much of this house. There aren't as many wide shots as of the previous house, so it's like more disorienting in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's massive, it seems.
Yeah.
And she's going down all these like carpeted stairs. Like maybe in the basement, maybe it's like a if the house is on a slope, it's like the lowermost patio. But he's out there in the dark in this hot tub, and he's just blasting this fucking song. And she's like, Aaron. And he's like, no, you should take your money and you should fucking go. And she's like, no, we agreed to do this thing together. And he's like, I know what you're trying to do, but like, it's not gonna work. I know you think you want to know my story, but you don't want to know my story. And she's like, I do want to know your story. And she turns the song off, and he's like, you turn that shit back on. And she's like, why? And he's like, it's because it's the best song in the world.
The best song in the world.
I put a note real quick here. There's a sign that's hanging on the front of the jacuzzi when she walks in, and it says the children must have adult supervision. And I put, it's a dead giveaway that the place is a rental.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it's like, it's got all this signage for safety and like, liability. That's true. Yeah, there are signs on other places in the walls, like next to the thermostat and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because, before, I don't know if it was very, like you had mentioned, it was very,
it had family photos or paintings and stuff.
But it wasn't readily apparent that it was a rental.
And he was like, see those paintings? I painted those with my dad.
Yeah, exactly. So he was able to fill in that. But this one, it just feels like, I don't know, how do you sell that when it's clearly... I
don't think he tried to hide it this time.
I don't think so.
Because it was like an encounter, so a house was rented. I do think it's interesting that she never asks him about his wedding ring, because that's the kind of thing that she would ask about.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think...
it never came up.
Maybe she's just more interested in his story right now. Like, I don't know, maybe that just went by the wayside.
Yeah.
She's like, so who the fuck would marry you?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did make a note that the track that's playing, it's in the subtitles, it's literally titled "Sarah Loves Her Juicy Fruit," like he had mentioned was the name of his favorite song. Yeah.
So the song comes up, and he's like, I am gonna tell you my story, and this is how it goes. He's like, I was 15. I was large for my age, so people thought I was 18, and I would sneak into bars and stuff. And he went to see this band. I don't think he says the band's name.
No, he just says this obscure rock band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
just like, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Name 3 of their songs.
She's just filming him this whole time. He's just sitting in the hot tub like a big baby,
That's so funny.
sulking, and he's like, okay, listen up. And so he found this band, and they played this song called Sara Loves Her Juicy Fruit, which was like a revelation to him. And you're like, you've heard the song and you're like, that song is a revelation to no one ever.
He says, she's like, why do you like this song or something? And he's like, maybe because it does more in the length of its runtime than any poet that mankind has ever known has ever done with their pen in the history of Earth.
He says with their instrumentation, because it's just an instrumental.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, just with their instrumentation in this runtime, it eclipses all of the history of the written word.
Yeah, exactly.
I've listened to the song several times, and it is fucking absurd. It's like, it's actually about Sara loves her juicy fruit.
Yeah, just literally about a girl chewing gum.
If I offer her a stick of double mint, she gives me the boot.
Yeah, it's...
And when she
stupid as fuck.
When she walks, she chews, and she goes bow 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 bow.
It's so fucking.
It's the dumbest song.
Yeah, it's a very fucking stupid song.
Yeah, there's something in there about being on a trampoline,
and it's in the Creep soundtrack. That's what I love about it.
You
like,
can.
it's
You
so
can. This
funny.
song is on Spotify, so check it out.
Absolutely.
I wonder, and I'm curious, like, was it a song, or did he commission it for the movie?
That just seems way too outlandish. That like it might have been a real fucking.
Oh, they're
song.
like, this is my buddy's band. We're just
too good.
We're working this song into this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
It was so good.
He presumably met this band, and he loved what they did, and he started like partying with them that night, but then they had to like leave town and go to the next city, so they dropped him off somewhere, and he had to walk home. And on his way back to town, a man stopped his car and offered him a ride. And Aaron says, and I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, "Oh my God. Oh my God. It's going to be a great day."
So good.
Which, like, you can't help but believe that this is where this comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Where that line originated from.
Yeah. Because of the way it's like an exact, like he says it exactly the same way, as though it was burned into his memory at one point, and he's just pulled from this moment in his life. So he tells her that the man did not drive him back to town. He drove him into the woods, where he beat him within an inch of his life and then made him dig his own grave and tied his hands and was like, "I'm about to bury you alive." And this is so fucking fascinating.
Yeah, this is an interesting part for sure.
Aaron says, "I remember thinking I should be afraid right now." But instead, he was just in awe of this man. He says, "I was in love with him. He was magnetic." So like,
strange.
He was flawless.
he was being faced with what he wanted to become, this person that's like he was essentially looking up to and wanted to become.
But knew he could be better than.
Yeah, he's like, he was flawless. He only had one flaw, was that he wasn't very good at tying knots.
That's so good.
And he like...
that's such a good line of dialogue, dude. It's so fucking fascinating.
And he describes, and there's a light in his eyes when he's describing, like, he freed his hands and he wrapped them around this man's neck, and he's big for a 15-year-old, so he's...
And he says, I drain his life with my bare hands.
Yeah, and he thought, this is my destiny. And then he stripped the man's clothes off and put him in the grave that was meant for him. And instead of, like, I'm not sure why he undressed him.
I know.
Presumably to put on his clothes.
Yeah.
But then he just also took off his clothes. And he laid naked next to the grave, communing with his victim all night long.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And he's like, Oh yeah, earlier she asked him why he had a patch in his beard, and he was like, "That's just how my beard
Oh
grows."
yeah, that's right.
And then, but now he's like, "I lied to you about my beard. This is actually a disease," and he knows the name of the disease or the disorder. The man that he killed, who was going to kill him, had this disorder, and I don't know how he would know that, where you pluck out your beard just like a nervous habit. And he's like, I have pieces of all my aspects of all my victims within me.
That's right.
And so that's what I took from him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's such a terrifying, like, he literally says, I am an amalgamation of all of them. That's so scary. That's like
it's
probably
terrifying.
the scariest thing he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to believe that there's some truth to it.
Somewhere. But you don't know where.
Yeah, some aspect of truth to it. Like, remember, like, the whole thing about Tubbies being so weird? So it's like,
Yeah.
is there like a combination here of these different factors? Was it your dad and he like just beat you up all the time, and then one day you got the jump on him and then it set you down this path? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be as innocuous as like one of his victims was like, I don't know, I used to, have tubby time. You don't know.
Yeah, it's totally true. Totally true. Between 39 people.
Yeah,
He's taking little pieces of, and like I have to believe that that's the part of this story that's true, is that he communes with their bodies and tries to like take a piece of them with him.
Yeah. I mean, well, because after 39 fucking bodies, he's already gotten really good at this. So, like, he's learned his victims enough to, know them, quote unquote, on a, personal level.
Yeah, he takes his work very personally.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
He wants it to be a good experience for you too.
He's not just a 9-to-5 guy, all right? He's thinking about it
Absolutely not.
all day.
Yeah.
So good.
He doesn't have time for clock watchers, okay? Like,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Yeah, so he's vividly describing how he's an amalgamation of all of his victims, and he's like, and now it's gone, and that is why, Sarah, you should go, because tonight is going to be a very bad night. And you get the sense that he's maybe thinking about suicide.
Yeah.
And she sets the camera down, and she climbs in the hot tub with him, and he's like, what are you doing? And she scoots around behind him, and she gives him like a really nice shoulder rub.
the Tubby
And
prophecy hath
The
been
Tubby.
fulfilled.
Right? And he's like, he's
so good.
very much enjoying it, and it's maybe a little bit sensual for him. And he's just like, this is the nicest thing that's happened to me in a long time. And she like, she gives him a good shoulder squeeze, and then she's like, all right, I'm gonna get out now, and I'm gonna go take a shower, so you do whatever. And then it cuts to in the hallway or somewhere in the house, in the stairwell. Erin has the camera because she left the camera behind, and
Yeah, I forgot about this.
he's recording a message for Sarah, and he's like, I want to thank you for what you did back there. I think you're really special. And you're inspiring feelings in me that I never thought I'd have again. Which is like, it sort of sounds like a romantic thing.
Yeah.
But for him, like,
It's totally not.
he pans down and there's a knife laying on the fucking carpet. And you're like, oh, he's getting his groove back. That's not good.
Getting his groove.
And he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So you're like, he's weighing,
Like,
he wants
options.
to maybe carry on and treat her as a victim, but like you get the sense he actually does like her and thinks that she's different. And he's like, maybe I shouldn't kill her because like we could be companions. So then he's like creeping up the stairs through this crazy house, and he's going into the guest bedroom where she's showering, the shower's running, and he's gonna sneak up on her,
That shower is drenched in red.
It's
too.
red. It's a red lit bathroom.
It's fucking crazy.
Which in most people's houses is not a normal thing. It's normal in my house.
Well, your hallway is also the upside down, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now, our house is decorated for Halloween, and my roommate, DJ, who's a very creative person, his bathroom is always red 24/7.
Yeah. You can see it from the outside.
Yeah,
right?
but it's all covered in
Hopefully
vines.
not the toilet bowl.
So that didn't strike me as weird as maybe it should have, but like it's red in there for whatever reason.
What's weird is what happens after this.
Yeah, he rips back the curtain and he's like getting ready to scare the shit out of her, but she gets a jump on him again, and she has her face is all. She
taped
put
up.
a bunch of scotch tape on her face to make it all spooky, and she's like taped her lip up and her eyelids and and
her nose and everything.
Yeah, she's wearing her bra and probably her shorts, and she's wrapped in a bath towel, and I think she probably never got in the shower. Probably for her own safety.
Yeah.
But she, like, jumps out and scares him, and she, like, really scares him.
Yeah.
He, like, falls backwards, and he's like, ah!
And she has her whole face, like, taped, like, pulled up with tape.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, her mouth, like, held... Like, I thought she was wearing a retainer, but then I realized it's, like, her lips are, like, taped upwards.
Just taped back.
Yeah. And she's leaning over him, and he's just gotten, like, the scare of a lifetime. And she's like, how do you feel? And he just starts... growling like Peachfuzz, and he's just like growling and howling, and then she's like howling back at him, and they're just having this demented moment together, like ah!
All right, let me match that energy.
Yeah. And so now you get the sense that they're on the same page or something, and they're just gonna be playmates for a while. And then we cut to them like they're actually like playing hide and seek in the dark.
It's such a wild scene.
And so he has the camera and he's looking for her, and he's like, Sara, and he's like going through the gate outside the house and looking through the trees, and he's got that like nighttime light on the camera, and I think he goes into a shed or a basement or something, and he's looking for her and he can't find her. And then she jumps up in the window from the outside and scares him again. Like, she legitimately scares him again. He's just never been jump scared in his life.
Yeah, he's usually the one doing the scaring.
Yeah, but he's loving it, and they're just having a really great time together. And then and then she has the camera, and she's like, I'm not scared of you. And she films him, like, running up on her with a knife. He's just holding a knife over his head, but it's like he's playing the role of a serial killer.
Yeah. It's just strange that it's so playful.
Yeah. and then cut to like he's like, okay, are you filming? And she's like, yeah. And she zooms out, and he's wearing like a turtleneck and jeans now, and he's got the axe, and he's like, okay. And she's just filming him chop wood. It's just gotten really dumb really fast.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's just filming him like do stuff. And she's like, I have a question for you. And he's like, what's up? And she's like, when you're holding that axe, is there a part of you that wants to ram it through my face? Which is exactly the kind of question that he would ask a victim. And he's like, well, I mean, yeah. As a serial killer, yeah.
Because she asks him, she says, can I ask you a question? And you answer honestly, like he would always ask.
Right.
Aaron,
she's taking on his
Aaron.
role. Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, of course I would want to put this axe through your head, but like then we couldn't have fun like we're having.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's funny. I always thought I'd die before I got to share my work with anybody, but now I have you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like genuinely.
Yeah, he's like, this could be my life now, my life with Sara.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, she's having like probably the longest night of her life.
Absolutely.
But he seems to be having thoughts of the future. And maybe not being alone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they're back in the house and they're playing pool. There's this room somewhere in the house that has this amazing wallpaper that's just a photo of like a Bavarian castle in the hills of Germany or Switzerland or something.
Of Germany.
This is the pool room. And yeah, they're just playing pool, and she's like, so do you have any remorse for your victims? And he's like, I mean, I feel like I give them a pretty fair warning of what they're walking into. Like, you know, like in my ad for you, there was the mention of Interview with a Vampire. I think that's pretty clear. That's not at all a clear warning that I'm a serial killer.
Yeah, like in no fucking way.
And he's like, it's like in a way they want to die.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is where he brings up
as
Aaron.
a justification.
He's like, I had this guy, I called him Buddy. And he came up to the house, and I had this axe in the sticking out of a stump, like, duh. And he saw the axe, and he spent the night anyway, that is not how it went.
Yeah, exactly.
But
oversimplification, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, okay, so if that's how that went, and you killed him with that axe, right? So you're going to murder me with a blender? And he's like, that's brilliant, actually. I never thought about that as a murder weapon. Yeah. And he's like, but alas, Sarah, I promised I wouldn't kill you, and I never lie.
Yeah.
So it's not in the cards for us. And she's like, well, you said you wouldn't kill me in the next 24 hours. And he's like,
why would you go ahead and bring that
He's
up?
like, little you.
Yeah.
That's just going to get you in trouble.
Yeah. He's like, why would you?
I love that line.
He's like, you little so-and-so. But I really love that it's like it's called genre savvy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but it's where like the one guy in the zombie film is like, yeah, they're zombies. I've played Resident Evil. Shoot him in the head. Like there's like the one guy in the story, and and generally you don't do. That's why people in zombie stories just don't know what zombies are, because if they've had ever seen a zombie movie, you would cut out the first like 40 minutes of this film.
They would have all these ideas already.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't
Which
normally...
I think we're at a point now where we need to do that more.
Yeah. So you don't generally make someone genre savvy, but for him to just straight up be like, yeah, none of my victims are genre savvy. They don't pay attention. And if they were like smart enough or had like seen some more films, they'd be able to just be like, yeah, this guy's... Like, I don't care. You're a foot shorter than me. I'm going to punch you in the face and take my car keys, and I'm going to dip, dude. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Get off me.
Get off me.
So
that's so good.
Is it also called, is that the same thing as is it called lamp shading?
Lamp shading is, like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You're right. I think... This would be lampshading, and to be genre savvy would be more like Sara. Like gotcha. When you do something really goofy and then you comment on it.
You qualify it.
Okay,
You're like, we know, we have to say it though.
Yeah, like at the end of the first
movie.
one where he was like, you didn't turn around. Seems kind of dumb. Like,
that's just, exactly.
Like, in universe think he's an idiot, so we just are supposed to be like, yeah, he just wasn't thinking straight, you know?
There's a reference to that in Archer, where Archer is in bed with Lana, and he pulls a gun out of absolutely nowhere. And she's like, where did that come from? And he's like, from the lampshade.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right. Oh, my God. That's one of my favorite shows.
Got him.
I'm literally just learning that for the first time on air.
Funny.
That's amazing.
I missed that joke. That's a good one.
It's so good.
Incredible. Yeah, that was a great catch by you, because I was caught up in using the wrong term, but yes,
it's okay.
God, dude, that's so funny.
I only learned this term very recently.
That's so funny. Oh, shout out Archer.
Yeah, way to go, guys.
Anyway.
So later she's washing dishes and she has her back fully turned and he has the camera and he's coming up behind her and she, with the willpower of 1,000 gods, does not turn around. She's constantly giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like, you still don't know whether she really believes him or not, but like she's giving him all the space to be himself at the risk of her life constantly.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey. And she's like, what's up? And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm doing the dishes. And he's like, have you ever been out in the woods? And she's looking at him like maybe a little worried.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, yeah. And he's like, do you ever just watch a deer being a deer? And she's like, I don't know. And then she's like, put the camera down. That's my job.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And he's just sort of like filming her back still. So he's just like having a moment like, is this the right time? I don't know. And then later they're sitting down to have some wine, some red wine. And she's like, so what are you thinking about? What are you doing? And he's like, have you ever heard of this book called The Journalist and the Murderer? And she's like, no. What's it about? And he's like, oh, it's sort of about that edge of like a journalist always has to ingratiate themselves with their subject, or sort of like a little flirtation to get the content that they need.
Like that moral quandary.
Yeah. And he's like, sort of like the show Encounters. And she's like, oh, fuck. And he's like, you didn't think I knew about that, did you?
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up, and it is a real book, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, he's drawing from real, like, actual subject matter.
I assumed he pulled that out of his ass to just to fuck with her.
Yeah, I was like, maybe this would be interesting to read, but it's very cold and clinical. It's not a novel.
Okay.
It's like literally just cold, clinical, psychological language behind like, this is what it does to a journalist to have to just watch a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Like, from what I understand, it's less about that, like, ingratiation, and I'm sure there is an element of that, but more just about, like, you're a wildlife, filmer. You have to just film the alligator rip this poor little baby animal apart, because that's just what you're doing. And as people chase...
The prime directive is to not interfere in any way.
Yeah, and so it's not having read it, it's almost like the question posed in that book is probably very similar to the question posed by like Man Bites Dog in this film, in terms of like, if that was the case, with the way that you chase sensationalist headlines, a journalist, by the way that these rules work out, you would have to watch someone get murdered.
Yeah.
It's it's a trip, but it sounds like it's definitely for people smarter than me to like actually sit down and read. I don't think I would get through it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound... I mean, I'd rather watch this movie than...
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, so he's like, I know about your show, and I know you have a knife in your boot, which he either knows from just being aware... or he watched her footage while she was out of the room.
Oh, I didn't even consider that.
It could be either way. And she's like, for the first time, she's like a little bit openly flustered. She's like, oh shit. And he's like, it's okay. I'm not mad at you. I don't think that you've been lying to me per se. You've just been like altering the facts a little bit, which is, it's what I do. I never lie.
Yeah, I love that. He's like, I never lie. I may play around with the facts a little bit, but I never lie.
Yeah. And he's like, but I'm going to need you to be honest with me. And she's like, okay, that's fair. And he's like, do you believe I'm a serial killer? And she's like, no. And he's like, thank you for your honesty. Why? And she's like, well, your stories are kind of ridiculous. Like... And what's the point of doing this documentary? Like, I would just...
What's to stop me from going to the cops?
Yeah, like, the obvious next step is that I would go to the cops. And he's like, I mean, you won't go to the police tomorrow, because tomorrow I'll be dead. Because tonight, you're going to kill me. And she's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, wild.
Yeah. And then he's like trying to sell her on it. He's like, we have to do this. This is it, Sarah. Like, this is the perfect 40th video.
This is the money shot.
I don't want to make another boring snuff film. We got to do the movie where the pupil fells the king. That can be our angle. Don't you want to make that film, Sarah?
It's hilarious.
And she's just like, no. And he's like, but it would be the best episode of Encounters ever.
She's like, certainly not.
Yeah. And then he's like, okay, wait here. And he runs off and he gets the Peachfuzz mask and he puts it on and he like gets the axe down and he hands it to her and he's like, it's okay. I sharpened it. It should go right through. And then he just like crawls onto the coffee table and he lays down with his head hanging over the edge and he's like, just chop it right off. It's easy. I promise you.
I want to say here, he's totally wrong, by the way.
Absolutely. That motherfucker's not going through shit.
Yeah.
He's like, there are very few bones.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I read a manga called Innocent that's about the like family of executioners that served under Louis XVI. Like,
oh, that's fucking crazy.
It's like the backdrop leading up to the French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sort of like, we're not nobles, we're not regular people, like, where's our place and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they talk a lot about how you have to hit, like, directly between two specific vertebrae, and it's like you lean your victim down in, like, a very specific way, and all these things. So it's, like, so practiced and so studied, like, even with a sword. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, with an axe.
There's science to it.
There's absolutely no way with an axe that you're doing it like first try. You'll kill somebody first try hitting them in the neck with an axe.
Damage will be done.
Yeah, but it's probably not going to take the head all the way off.
Nope.
Right. Yeah, and
That's
she's just standing there with the axe in her hands, and I mean, obviously she's like really weirded out, and this is way more than she was bargaining for. But she actually, like, lifts up the axe over her head. I don't think she has any intention of bringing it down, but I do think that as an artistic person, she's being in the moment and feeling like, what would it be like if I brought, that call of the void that we all have is like, what if I did this crazy thing that I can't come back from? Mm-hmm. And I think she is living that for a second. And then, of course, she doesn't bring the axe down on his neck, and he's like, what's wrong? And then we cut to he's sitting on the banister of the upper level of the cabin, and he's got a rope around his neck, and he's like, you're right, this is a much better way to go. This way.
Look, I didn't think about this earlier. This is a much better way.
Yeah. He's like, you don't have to kill me, but like because you're filming it, so you're like an accomplice.
He hits her with my argument for why Batman absolutely murdered Ra's al Ghul at the end of Batman Begins. Like, if you tell me that Batman never killed anyone, I'm just like, no, that's killing.
No, that's more
be like, fuck it, die then.
No, it counts.
For the people at home, I just extended my bat wings and pushed backward in my rolly chair. I was really in the moment.
He disappeared into the night.
I was excited. He disappeared.
Die then.
So she's filming him about to hang himself, and she's like, Aaron, I don't know if I'm ready, and he just jumps off. He's like, whoop, and then he's like hanging by his neck from the upper level of this cabin, and she's like, oh my god, and she like runs over and grabs him around the waist and lifts him up, and she's like, pull yourself up, and he's just like being dead weight, and then the whole thing falls down, like he falls on her, and we cut to a little bit later. He's running around the house, and he's like, oh, I know, I have a better idea. We could try this. And he comes running into the living room, and she is putting on her socks and shoes.
Mm-hmm. She's like, I had my head out.
Yeah. She's like, fuck off. And he's like, what? She's like, I said fuck off. So she's hit her line.
Finally, she does have one.
Yeah. This is her boundary.
Her eyes were bigger than her stomach on that one.
Yeah. But she's still putting on a brave face. Like, he's a very unpredictable person. He's given her a hell of a night. And she's just like, fuck you, but also I'm just gonna go. I'm not afraid of you. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And then he pulls out, his step back move that he does. He's like, I'm sorry. Am I a serial killer? No. Am I a crazy, weird, pathological liar? Yes. And I just really wanted...
So sue me.
Yeah, he keeps saying, I just really like you, which I believe is true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, I just wanted to, impress you as an artist and give you, like, the best episode of your show that you could ever ask for. Like, I wanted to be that subject that you've been looking for. And it's almost as though he was... Before they ever met, he was there, like, watching her, like, self-tape where she's like, I just don't know how to do this. I don't know how to... I thought I could get this out of people.
Yeah,
It's as though he saw that, and maybe he did somehow, but he's just like, I just wanted to be that perfect subject that you've hungered for as a documentarian. I'm just so sorry, and I didn't mean to overstep the line. And she gets maybe like a little emotional. Like, it looks like she has maybe half a tear in one of her eyes, and she's like, she accepts his apology. So they've gotten over this, like, friendship hump together. And they're, like, in this new realm where they're cool again.
It's weird again. It's that disarming thing that he's been doing up until this point, the gaslighting bullshit.
Yeah, they just go through something really crazy together, and then they feel like they know him for real.
Well, because then doesn't he reveal the setup for the hanging?
Yeah,
he runs over.
He's like, no, look. It's just a harness. I wasn't actually hanging myself. This is just a thing that I was doing to, like, I wanted to, like, impress you.
Yeah.
And she's
Which
like,
is the fucking weirdest goddamn thing to say.
and I do think, like, she is a kind of a, like, wild person. So when she sees that it's a harness and it's a trick, she's like, I mean, you are kind of cool. You're just, like, a really weird person, and so am I. And, like, I don't know. You can sort of get this vibe that they could be partners or lovers or, like, accomplices in whatever crazy pranks they want to pull.
Like I said, he was looking for, like, a killing partner.
Yeah. He's like, maybe I could get her used to this. And she's like, maybe I could hang out with this crazy wacko.
He's looking for the Mallory to his Mickey Knox.
Yeah. So then they're back in the Bavarian castle room, and they're playing a game, which is 2 Lies and a Truth, which is her idea. She's like, she's down to spend more time at this cabin. She's like, all right, let's play this game. And she's like, so you tell 3 stories, one of which is true. And he, like, pulls out some facts about himself. And
what did you say? I was born
3 months premature.
3 months premature.
I've never been with a woman.
Never been with a woman.
And I can hold my breath for 2 minutes and some seconds.
2.5 minutes, I think he says.
Yeah, and she's, like, about to guess, and he's like, it's 2. It's the second one.
It's just like, that's not how the game goes.
Yeah. And, like, you just never know with him. So he's either, like, hoping to have a romantic moment, or this is his play.
Yeah.
And it could be both. Because he does like her.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he just gets very honest, and he's like, I've never been with a woman at all. And she's like, you're fucking kidding me. And he's like, no, I mean, I had my first psychotic break at 14. I was in an institution until 19, and I just missed that window. And when I got out, I started working in security, and there was mostly older people around, and I had a falling out with my family. He mentions his sister.
See, okay, so she does come back. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that makes me think that they are going to bring her up for the third
I
one.
would-
There
I would
has to
hope
be
so,
something.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I feel
interesting.
like that is true.
It's interesting too, though, because the man supposedly happened when he was 15, but now he says 14 to 19.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck. That's a good
But it's
catch.
like
Yeah.
there has to be some element of it that's true, especially because both
Right.
movies, his first lines are, oh my God, this is going to be a good day." So it is very much
Yeah.
part of his ritual.
He's pulling from something that happened in his life
Yep.
in some way.
God, that's such a good catch, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
so
like
good.
she thinks like she probably caught that he said earlier that this thing happened to him at 15, but like she's accepted that that was probably a lie and that this is now the truth.
Yep.
And he's like, you know that movie Never Been Kissed? I should have written and directed that, which is such a dumbass line.
So stupid.
And he's like, oh, like,
man.
oh, shucks. And she's like, okay, well, do you want to have your first kiss? And he's like, really? You'd kiss me?
Really?
Golly gee.
Yeah. And this is just like, I think we're back in the realm of,
fingers.
this is the kind of thing that she would do with any subject.
Yeah.
Like she's not there to do like sexual stuff, but like if one of her subjects in one of her videos was like, I've never kissed a girl, she'd be like, well, let's kiss. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, like saying I'm a virgin, like if she was like, let's go, that'd be crazy. But to be like, yes, it's a kiss, it's a very harmless thing. If it's something that you have built up so big in your head to the point where you're a 40-year-old man and it's still freaking you out, like,
Yeah.
let's get this out of the way so you can figure out your life. I feel like that's like a pretty innocuous thing for,
Right.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And he's like, oh, who makes the first move? And she just grabs his face and kisses him. And it's a really nice kiss. And he's like, huh, that was nice.
Yeah.
So she's given him this experience. And then they're back out in the woods again. And he's like really excited. He's all like he's back to his bubbly old self, which is not good.
Exactly.
He's got-
him getting his groove back is fucking dangerous.
Yes. And he's like, I just gotta show you something. It's so cool. And she's filming him and like, it's difficult to know where her guard is at this point
At this
because
point in time, yeah.
it's hard to know what she believes or doesn't believe.
Yeah.
Or if she's afraid of him at this point or not. But he takes her out in the middle of nowhere and they've got that bright light on the camera and he's like, I want to show you something. And he pulls out the locket
That's just hilarious.
that he gave to Aaron.
I
And
didn't have time to make one for you. You were a surprise.
You were a surprise. I wasn't expecting you. And he hands
Sorry,
it to
there's
her.
a picture of some guy in there.
Yeah, it's just like, it's still got the picture of him and Aaron in it. And it says
Old Aaron.
J plus A forever. And he's like, can I put this on you? And she's like, okay. She's probably back to being weirded out at this point. He puts the locket on her. And then he's like, and now I want to show you something. And he just like looks over like, huh? And she's like, what? And he like moves the camera over and there's a grave, a very deep,
Fucking crazy.
large grave dug in the woods and there's a shovel next to it. And she's like, oh, okay. And
I gotta go.
yeah. And she's like, when did you dig that? Because they've
Oh,
been
yeah.
spending the whole day together. So she's like, when the fuck did this happen? And he's like, I actually dug this before you got here. Like, I don't really know. I didn't know if it was for me or for you. But I think I've made up my mind.
Exactly. That's terrifying.
Yeah, and you can-
Terrifyingly vague.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I figured it out. And he's like so excited. And you can just feel her heart rate picking up like, oh fuck. Like maybe he really is a killer. And he's doing all this great like physical acting where he'll like move forward suddenly like he's about to do something, but it's just him like turning her or taking the camera. And he takes the camera from her and turns it on her, and she's standing there. She's standing in this bright light like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And you can tell she's such a good actor.
Yeah.
She's like very worried, but being still for her own safety.
Her fight or flight is highly engaged.
And he's filming her, and you can hear him stabbing himself.
Oh, I love that scene. Yeah, it's
in the side. He takes out a knife, and she's like, "Oh fuck!" And then he just stabs himself.
Yeah, you
like,
just hear the stabbing
4 or 5 times in his side, and he's like,
fucking rough. Yeah.
And she's just watching him like, what the fuck? And she's absolutely terrified.
It's so brutal from like that vantage of behind the lens.
Yeah.
Just seeing like the lens shake every time
so fucking
he like
terrifying,
makes contact, and you could hear like the squelch and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
and because he's told her, like, this is it, I figured it out, like, I'm not gonna die or you're gonna die, we're gonna stab ourselves and die together like Romeo and
Then
Juliet.
someone will find the footage.
And this is like he's having this romantic moment, like he hasn't given up on his, like, he's still like, I have to die because I'm 40 and what the fuck, but like at least I'm not alone. And
so wild.
And then he hands her the knife, and he's like, don't be scared. I'm not gonna stab you. I love you too much. You stab yourself. And she's holding the knife, like he has put it in her hand, and she's just standing there like, oh my God. And then she just turns and bolts into the woods. And he's like, where'd you go? And he seems genuinely puzzled by like that she's dipping out on him.
yeah.
And he's like stumbling around. He's like already bleeding out, and he's filming, and he's like running around. He's trying to find her. And I think you glimpse her once behind a tree in passing. And he's just looking everywhere for her, and he's like kind of kneeling down. And I think there's a moment where like he gets hit in the head.
Yeah,
And
I think
she ran by and like hit him.
There's some like thuds that happen that they don't ever get explained or anything. Yeah, you just hear them.
Yeah, I think she like
I was super confused.
She's doing that
hit him
classic
once.
anime technique where you turn into the light and then you just like through all the trees, and the guy you're hitting just like spins every time, you know? I think that's what she was doing.
She pulled a move on him. So then she like runs out at him with the knife, and she's gonna like stab him so that she can get away. And they have like a tussle, and the camera falls on the ground, and she has lost the knife and he has it, and she's like, oh fuck. And she runs away from him, and he chases her behind a tree, and she falls. And this is such a fucking hard to watch part of the movie. He gets on top of her, and he stabs the fuck out of her several times, and the way that she cries out is it's very upsetting.
Yeah, definitely.
And he basically he just stabs her a bunch.
She really should have just run away, but I feel like it calls back to they just never heed the warnings.
Right.
Like she should have just left.
Yeah,
He's bleeding to death. Like
right. She could have gotten quite a bit of distance.
Yep.
Honestly, she should have just picked up some dirt, and if he ever came too close, just thrown it all at his wounds, and that'll slow him down. You know?
That'd do it.
Even
that would have just been enough for sure.
Oh, that'd be brutal, honestly. Like even just little twigs and dust and stuff like that would really hurt.
Yeah.
That would fucking suck.
Yeah. So then it cuts to a little bit later, and the camera is in front of the grave, and he is dragging her lifeless body down into the grave. And he spends a little bit of time down there. I think he's like arranging her nicely, or like maybe he's touching her face and like saying goodbye, because like she was a special one. And obviously she's got to be his new favorite, because there's no way anyone tops that. And he climbs.
Aaron got that competition,
right? He climbs out of the grave, and he's like not doing great. He's like bleeding heavily from the side, and he like kneels down from the camera, and he's like, telling her how she's his muse. And he never thought he would want to kill again, but like she changed all that for him. And he's like giving his little speech to his deceased victim, like he likes to do for his video that he's gonna cut later, even though he's like, you're not sure if he's gonna make it out of the woods.
Yeah, exactly.
And while he's addressing her, behind him, she is climbing out of the grave. She's not dead yet.
I wrote here, I don't know if you guys have ever played Altered Beast, but I wrote, "Rise from your grave, warrior."
And you're like, God damn, this woman really is a G. She was like, she probably, in the midst of being stabbed, had the presence of mind to pretend as though she'd already passed. She just stopped moving.
Play dead.
Can you imagine playing dead while someone's still sticking a knife in you?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
That's
God.
Gotta be so hard
That's
to
some
pull
harrowing
off.
shit, man.
Yeah. Or like, you know, if the same thing with like knives or guns, like not reacting to something that is that painful.
Yep.
So she's like making this romantic speech, and she creeps out of the grave, and she takes the shovel, and she fucking
whoops his ass.
whacks him in the back of the head so hard that the blood spatters all over the lens.
That was great.
I just realizing now how much it mirrors the way he kills Aaron. Why didn't you turn around?
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know, and she takes the
Exactly.
same like couple, like not quite comical when she's doing it, but those same couple.
but she
like,
takes a couple of steps.
You can't hear that behind you. She's wearing boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then she runs off into the
Man,
into the woods.
I would have double tapped on that motherfucker, bro.
Yeah. And then this is one of my favorite endings of a movie ever.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I really like this one.
We open on a sidewalk in New York City, some handheld footage of just people walking on the sidewalk. It's a very crowded area. And eventually you notice that in the middle of the sidewalk, coming towards the camera, is Sara. And she looks different. She's lost weight. She has her hair isn't. Yeah, she's just got her natural hair color. She's no longer got any hair dye. She's dressed different. She's like all around a more serious person who's been through some shit.
She done been through it.
And I'm pretty sure this is in New York, which means she has moved as far away from California as she can.
Yeah, it definitely has a New York vibe about it.
Yeah, totally.
And as soon as you realize it's her, you're like, oh, fuck. So who's filming her? And then there's a shot from behind her, which means he's found her and is documenting. And then the next shot is on a bus, and she's sitting down, and she's sort of, I think she's listening to music on her headphones, and she's sort of like absently smiling to herself. And he's filming her, like, maybe at some distance. And he's, like, whistling the Peachfuzz song.
And he's, like, angry that she's not catching it already, I feel like.
She probably can't hear it, because she's got headphones.
Yeah.
But in that last second, you see her notice him. And
it's just that
and
drop in her face.
Her face just is like, oh. And then it just cuts to black.
To black, and then it's just credits, baby.
And
it's so good.
Like, he must have killed her because he has all the footage to cut together the beginning parts of the movie and all the like, if he has all the footage.
Yeah, all the footage,
then he must,
right.
Yeah.
Unless she just left the camera behind.
Yeah. In the very least, he got away from that encounter without the police.
Yeah, catching up.
Like,
with him.
even if he didn't kill her, she didn't manage to get him caught after that.
Yeah. And she probably ran because, you know, like in the first movie, you know, we missed our chance to raise the ACAB alarm. But that's what cops do. They're like, oh, you can't do all of the work for me. And even when you can, you know, like when I was assaulted, it's like, here's a picture of this guy's face, license plate, gang tattoos. And they're just like, oh, weird. You gave me a blank photo.
Yeah, I did actually say it's still a cab over here.
Oh,
so
okay,
we
good.
Okay,
good. The alarm went off.
Firm reminder.
But yeah, I'm sure. This guy did this stuff. They're okay, and if anything, they probably
Sounds
went
like
up
he's
to,
a weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anything, they went to the cabin, and that's probably the most they ever did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, talk about a mic drop ending, though.
Oh.
Oh, snap. We have a wild kitty entering the chat.
Yeah, Oliver's under the table. Now Yusuke's on my leg. Oh, she's gone.
Oliver's actually right next to me. He plopped down, changed positions.
He's on the
Nice.
couch now.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast. So, yeah, I mean, that was fucking... It's the far superior film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking dazzling.
One crawls so two can fly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm
glad we all are on that same page.
I want to say the crowd shot at the end is very similar in like a twisted converse way to Memories of Murder and to like the end of Swallow. Like it's interesting how these crowd shots mean so many like different things. Even though like it really goes to show how like the language of visuals is like so crafted in each film, where it's like, okay, what does this mean here? It's not just what does it mean, and that's the one size fits all.
Right.
You know, it's like dream interpretation books where it's just like, all right, you can't just tell me that that's what everything means to every single person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you gotta dissect each thing.
We're broad stroking it a little there.
Yeah, individually. But I really liked that, and that was just like the first thought was like, we're not seeing his eyes scanning the theater. It's like the opposite of just like he could be anywhere. He's so good at hiding himself.
Yeah. And there's no you get the fun of imagining like, does he look exactly the way he looked when she met him, or is he in this new form and she just happened to recognize him, because you always would recognize that person forever who stabbed you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and God, him like whistling, trying to like playfully get her attention, and then she won't look. So then I think he does more of like a piercing, like 2-note, like pay attention whistle, and that's when her eyes like flick over to him. It's like
shit.
Like he's like, this one just never lets me like do what I want to and like get it the way I want. Like, she's so stubborn, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's like
Which
his
raises
thing.
the question, like, either 3 could be something, it could be an
Completely
origin
different.
story,
Yeah.
or it could be her again. It's hard to tell where they might take it.
You really cannot know where the fuck that movie's gonna go.
I thought about it, and I'm gonna email Mark Duplass this so that he knows he can use it. But 3 should be him telling people that he's gonna like either do a haunted house or like a horror film with them, and he's just actually murdering these people in front of each other in a way where they don't know
Just
that
take
it's
it back.
really happening.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even be mad if 3 went full slasher with it. You know what I mean? If we actually see all the kills that he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's surprising,
Yeah.
don't
I just want it to be
mind.
original, man. I just want it to be fresh.
It's got to
Yeah.
be found footage, and it's got to be really unique. And I feel like that could be if he's like, oh, we hired someone to shoot the behind the scenes footage of this movie, and like, you know, either the kills on the movie are real and people don't know, and he's like, oh, that was their last day of shooting, so they're gone. And they're like, oh, well, that's weird, you know? And they're like, well, no, they have other stuff to do. This is Hollywood's a big town. There's a lot of projects going on. You know what I mean? Like,
There's a really fun movie called Murder Party.
Oh, yeah, Murder Party's
Which
fun.
is an early film by Jeremy Saulnier, who did Green Room and Blue Ruin and Hold the Dark. And it's about this, like, really average dude who finds a flyer to a Halloween party. And he's like, yeah, I'll go. Costume party. And he puts on this, like, really dumb cardboard outfit.
Yeah.
And he shows up at this warehouse where this party's happening, and everybody gets murdered there. And he's just like, what the fuck? And he very quickly is fighting for his life all night.
That's so much fun. So much fun. I haven't seen that movie in years. I really got to rewatch that one.
It's a fun one.
So good. Well, I mean, let's rate this one up. I mean, I think I pretty much can
Oh.
predict this one.
Yeah.
6 out of 6, buddy.
Yeah, that's a resounding 6 out of 6.
Evelyn was right. I should have given the last one a 5, but so this one could like stand above it. But yeah,
No, I don't know,
man.
they're both perfect in my
Yeah,
mind.
they're honestly fucking perfect. Like, just as a double feature, it works so well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if you want more of the first one, which you immediately will, you know, the second one just delivers on so many different fucking levels. So yeah, you know, far superior film, but both have their merits.
I got to retract when we were doing Man Bites Dog, and I was like, oh, I love both the Creep movies. They're kind of the same movie, but in a way that like really, really works. I was completely wrong. They're not the same movie.
In memory, like having not seen it in a while, you're like, yeah, I mean, he kind of does what he does, but
But it's such an interesting take to be like, here's this serial killer's midlife crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for that to be the center point of the sequel, that's such a fucking fantastic choice.
Oh yeah.
So, I think we're gonna have to call it here, but why don't we see if how about your question for this week?
So I got one more. So this is for this half of it. What is something your parents did to scare you as a kid?
Oh, that's fucking funny.
So I'll go with my.
Go ahead. Yeah.
My stepdad. It's so funny, dude, because it's like so nonsense in hindsight. But he used to be like, the crab monster's gonna get you, and he would make little crab hands, and he would go, and we would just be like, oh no! And then there was two other ones that were always. My stepdad is such a bizarre guy, and I love him so much. He's so funny, like the way his brain works. He would be like, you don't want to anger the spirit of Ha-Ha Tag. That was like another one. He would just mention Ha-Ha Tag, and we'd be like, oh my god, no, what is that? What is that? That's so fucked up, man. You can't just do that.
That's so fucked.
What?
And then the other one was the light bulb monster. And we were just like, what are you talking about? We're like 7 years old. This is fucking me up, man. Like,
These are very inventive.
yeah,
exactly.
my stepdad
Absolutely.
is a hell of a guy. You know,
Super
I love
creative.
him so much. But it was just like, it would like scare us, but it would be funny at the same time. You know, it'd be like, what the
That's
hell are you
so
talking
funny.
about? The crab monster.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, there was one. I grew up in the country.
The
so,
old
not-
country.
Yeah, in Ohio, and we weren't really near. We weren't in a neighborhood or anything. We were just out in the middle of nowhere, and I was hanging out in my room at night, and I had like my blinds were open, and I was sitting with my cat, and my cat started to get that spooked look, like, what the fuck is that?
I'm communing with the demons.
Yeah. And looking at the window, and of course you can't see anything out of a window at night. It was just blackness, and I was like, man, I really wish I'd closed my blinds now.
I'm not doing
And-
it at this juncture, but
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just sitting there like scared, and my cat is scared, and there was a deep laugh that came
That's terrifying.
from outside, and it sounded like a man, and I was like, I'm gonna die.
Well, this is how I go.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
and I ran to my dad's room and woke him up, and I was crying, and I was like, there's a man outside. And it was a whole thing, and I'm sure my dad was like, what the fuck? And he's like, I'm not ready.
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready for straw dogs
Jesus.
or funny games or whatever the fuck.
Funny game.
Today is not the day. I'm not prepared. And then my mom came in laughing, and she's like, oh, you should have seen your face. She was just out there just like stomping around.
That's hilarious.
Because she's like a
dude.
gardener and just like very like, oh, she's always out in the just doing stuff with buckets, and
Oh my god.
she just decided to look in the window, and then she thought it was really funny that I was scared.
That's hilarious.
So
dude.
that's my mom.
I don't really
Jesus.
have like. I have nothing that stacks up to either of them. I have absolutely nothing is coming to mind. Like, that's such a good question. I mean, my dad was always like, like messing around with us and like little Halloween like scares, like, but it wasn't anything like, yeah, it wasn't like nothing like, it wasn't anything that was a tradition. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Let's put it that way. It was just little like light little spoofs, like before my sister's parties. I remember one time, like when we were setting up like stuff in the garage, I went in there to cut out to like help him like decorate the garage or something like that. But like he went in before me and we had like a bunch of like cardboards and stuff like set up, and I didn't know he was in there, and the lights were all like off and half on, but like he just like threw the thing back and I just like squealed and just fucking took off. But yeah, no, it wasn't nothing stacks up, man. Mine is not interesting at all.
It's a very important part of the growing process to
the trauma.
Have all your nerve endings just on fire from fear.
Yeah, I think the most that I ever got was like walking in on him watching Scream 3. I'll never forget that one. That one actually did terrify me when I was a kid, because I walked in on the scene where Ghostface is driving a butcher knife through someone's like skull and like pinned him up against the wall, and I was just like, well, fuck,
that'd do it.
Yeah, so that's probably as close as I got to being traumatized.
Your innocence said, well, I guess I'll head out.
Yeah, exactly. I had him head out.
Yeah. Jeez. Hitting that old dusty trail.
Yeah.
God. Well, you know, I mean, I just try to come up with something to like relate our lives to these stories in a way. And it's like, you know, obviously it's not like, hey, when's the time that some weirdo hit you up on Craigslist? You know what I mean? But,
right.
But just like, you know, the Peachfuzz thing is what made me think of like dressing up as like a kid, or like things your parents do to mess with you, because it's like, you know, like Evelyn said, like it is kind of the growing process. It's like, you know, as a kid you need to learn that like if you get hurt, that's not the end of everything, and if you get scared, that's not the end of everything, and you have to learn to like deal with being scared and being hurt, because sometimes those are things that we face in life. And if you can
noted,
in a way it's one of the most important things to have a clear understanding of before you go out into the world, because it's the only way you're going to stay safe.
Yeah. And what I'm getting out of this is that I need to start getting real creative with my niece on Halloween.
Yeah, scare the shit out
Play
of her.
some mind games.
Yeah, exactly.
I have many nieces, and a couple of them are like too young for it to be like appropriate, but they love like gory slasher movies.
Oh, fun.
Hell
you know, that classic,
that's so
like,
fun.
I'm a, 9-10-year-old girl and I dress like a princess most of the time, but I love Freddy Krueger. And I'm just
that's
like,
amazing.
Okay.
It's such an interesting
That's awesome.
face in a little girl's
so
life.
cute.
It is,
that's
isn't
so
it?
cute.
And it's not every girl that goes there.
Not every girl.
So,
oh man, well, looks like, I mean, we're gonna probably traumatize everybody.
That's
with
right.
With our next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
man,
going
if you
back
guys-
to the Takashi Miike folder.
Absolutely.
And
We are-
this one is subfoldered under the worst shit. We're going to be
this
watching
is the-
Visitor Q, which is, there's...
I don't think I'm ready.
There's certain movies that are date movies. This is like a breakup movie. Like, if you want someone to just, like, not talk to you anymore, and you've only been seeing them for a couple months, throw this one on.
Yeah.
They're like, this is my favorite movie.
They're
This
like,
is not
oh, God, no.
This is not a hug your mother movie, but it's definitely in that exactly. I say that knowing what it is.
I'm so concerned.
Yeah, you should be.
Oh.
All
right.
Well, on that note, we're gonna go ahead and let you guys simmer in that one. I mean, go and watch that movie, but go in prepared. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
This is probably gonna be one of the most fucked up we covered.
Hell yeah.
Definitely going to be one of the most fucked up we covered so far. And you guys can join in the conversation and, follow us on social media. On Facebook, we are The Devil's Work Podcast. And on Instagram, you can find us at The Devil's Work Pod. And if you guys want to talk to us directly, go ahead and email.
Please at us.
Please at us.
Yeah.
There is an email set up for you guys to talk to us directly. If you guys want to just, slide in our personal DMs. We are the Devil's Work Podcast at gmail.com. Please leave your movie reviews of your own, of movies that we've covered or things that we're going to cover, any recommendations you have. We want to hear any and all.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to the day that we just start pulling recommendations out of a hat and just being like, hey, screw it. Let's see what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one that we've all just completely been blind to. But yeah, for next week, definitely get ready. This is gonna be a fucking deep one. We've been talking about this one for a little bit, so the day is finally coming, and we're all terrified. All right, you guys, we're gonna get out of here. Have a good one. Be safe. Fucking after this movie, that takes on a whole other meaning, man. Don't talk to strangers online.
Don't answer Craigslist.
Don't answer Craigslist
personal ads. Just don't.
Just don't.
Don't be afraid of the big bad wolf.
All right,
he's as sweet as a rabbit. I want a full version of that song, honestly.
You're just gonna get it, man. You keep fucking around, you're gonna find out. All right, guys, later.
See ya.